Hey guys, welcome back to Kouch Chronicles. I'm Kristen,
I'm Kelsey.
and this is episode 10.
Holy. Do we start a new chapter? What do we do now?
Episode 10 of Couch Chronicles, and the last episode we're recording in our apartment.
Oh my God. I can't believe
this apartment.
This apartment. We're moving to San Diego in 6 days.
Yeah.
5 plus 1.
6 days.
I can't believe
It's crazy.
It's so bittersweet because we have so many memories in this place. Like,
Yeah.
we've been here for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is all we've known living together.
Yeah.
And we're so familiar with the area. We know how to get everywhere without a GPS. There's so many walking trails. Like, it's a beautiful place to live, but we're so ready for something new.
I can't wait.
It's going to be a really good change, and I just feel like we're going to have so much fun. Like, I think we're going to thrive
so.
in San Diego. So I'm excited.
I can't wait. Yeah, well, today we're going into one of our deeper topics now.
Getting deep.
We're going to talk about what the difference is between self-love and self-worth.
Yeah, we are.
For me, obviously this is all going to be like to each their own, like
Yeah.
opinion-wise, because I feel like it can be so vastly different. But I think for me, you can love yourself and love who you are, but not like understand your full worth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like when I think about it, you can love yourself, but when you have self-worth, you care more about how other people treat you. When you love yourself, you treat yourself great because you love yourself. But when you don't have self-worth, you let other people walk all over you because you don't think you're worthy of being treated the right way.
And I feel like it can get, like, there's a very fine line between the two, because I feel like a lot of people will say, like, well, you don't truly love yourself until you know that, like, you're worthy or something. But I feel like when you don't even realize that there's a whole other, like,
Level to
it, you can love yourself as much as you want.
Yeah.
But I feel like there are so many levels to finding your worth and knowing your own worth.
Yeah. I feel like self-worth is something that I have felt more in the last year than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always loved myself.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been pretty confident, like, big fan of myself, because if you're not a fan of yourself, then who else is going to be?
Yeah.
But I was in a lot of bad situations where people weren't treating me right, and I was just letting it happen because I didn't realize my own worth.
Yeah.
And like what I really did deserve. And I didn't think that I deserved bad things by any means, but I didn't realize how much more I deserved than what I was getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think we're kind of similar on that, but I also think we're kind of very opposite.
Yeah.
Because I think that I like think that I'm worth a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like I stick to my worth pretty often, and like I follow that more often than the self-love, because I feel like the self-love for me comes through like negative self-talk and like all the stuff like that. And I don't know, I feel like I have very high standards, so like I'm not going to put up with a lot. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's just like opposite.
Yeah.
Or,
like
train of
higher
thought.
standards, lower confidence maybe.
Yeah.
And I have had lower standards, high confidence.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've learned a lot from each other in balancing that. Like, I definitely, my
100%.
standards have gotten so much higher since I met you. And because you will tell me, like, if I'm in a friendship or a relationship or anything where like they're not treating me well, you'll be like, you deserve better. What are you doing?
Like,
and you
what the
will
hell
not
are you
be
doing?
easy on me about
No.
it, which is what I need sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that that's helped me like really gain more perspective on like my own self-worth and like what I do deserve. And once you realize your self-worth, you will just attract the right people.
It's crazy.
It's insane. Like once you really know your self-worth, the right people will just come to you, because the wrong people will see that you have that self-worth and be like, oh, I could never give her what she deserves.
I saw a TikTok today that blew my mind, and it has so much to do with like the self-worth discussion. It was this girl, she had just gone on a first date with this guy, and she opened it up by like saying that she was he was never going to see her again.
Yeah.
First. And I was like, that's hilarious. You got me hooked. And then she starts to talk about how he asked her, like, okay, like, who are all these guys that I'm going to be competing with, like, for you? And she goes, guys? Like, guys you're competing with? Like, no, like, you're competing with me. Like,
I think I've seen this.
Have you?
Yes.
I saw it today. My mind blown.
Because she's like, you have to, I love spending time with myself and doing my own thing. You have to make me love spending time with you as much as myself.
Exactly. Yeah, that was it. And I literally was like, oh my gosh, I have never gone into a date thinking that. Like, I've gone into first dates thinking, like, will I like them? Right. Like, will they like me? Blah, 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 whatever. Like, do we vibe? But I've never gone on a first date with that, like, thought process of, like, oh, like, I'm going to sit here and see if I enjoy him enough to join me when I hang out with myself, like, alone and enjoy it.
Yeah. And you do, before you have that level of self-worth, you are like, okay, which guy do I like the best? And they are competing with each other. Yeah. And when like you have that self-worth, you're like, I don't care. Like, it's not about who's better looking, who's funnier. It's about who do I feel like my time is worth giving to.
Right. Because you could be talking to 5 different guys at once, not in a relationship, to be clear.
When you're single.
When you're single. You could be talking to 5 different guys at once. And if not one of them you enjoy spending as much time with as you do by yourself, then not one of those 5 men is good enough.
Yeah. And you don't have to pick one of them either. You don't have to date one of them just because there's 5 guys. Like, you don't have to end up with any of them.
And I feel like a lot of the time when people have lower self-worth, and this goes for everyone, but when they have lower self-worth, it's so easy for them to fall into a relationship that they're better than.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so much better than.
Yeah. I'm guilty.
Yeah, but at the same time, you also have so much confidence and love yourself so much. But yeah, you fall into these bad relationships.
Yeah. I think in life in general, I've always been pretty confident.
Yeah.
Like, like I said, I've always, like, loved myself. I've never had any, like, issues with my own self-image and that sort of thing. Yeah. Like, I've just always been confident. And I think my dad definitely, like, instilled that in me.
Instilled, I think.
And I think sports helped a lot too. Because being a part of a sports team psychologically is proven to help your confidence. But I also was, at the time, a star athlete on my sports team. Yeah. So I was really good at that. And I had that thing that I was good at. And, like, it built my confidence to another level, especially in college. Once I started playing at that level, that's when my confidence really skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And that's great. But my self-worth, and I didn't realize it at the time. Like, it was one of those things where I knew I had a lot of worth. And I knew that I deserved better than a lot of the situations that I was putting myself in. But I didn't have enough self-worth to walk away from those situations. Instead, we'll use dating as an example because it's easy.
Yeah.
I would tell guys how I should be treated. And I would tell them, like, I deserve this, and like, you're doing all these things and I don't deserve any of that. But what is that going to do? If I'm just telling them that, they're going to be like, okay, sure, but you're still staying. You're still sticking around. So that's
what I was going to say. I was like, but you stayed.
Exactly.
So without changed actions.
Yeah. And I can tell you the exact moment when I realized my self-worth.
I think I could tell you the exact moment.
When my situationship with the liar ended, the way that this story went, I'm sure we'll do a whole episode about, like, our biggest heartbreaks or worst situationships or something.
I feel like yours could just be the whole episode. I'll just ask questions.
Yeah, maybe. So basically with the liar, we dated. It was great. He messed up. I gave him a second chance. And when he messed up that second chance, I was, like, in love with this man at this point. I wanted it to work so bad. But when he messed up again, I walked away when I didn't want to. Like, I wanted it to work, but I was like, you know what? I'm so tired of feeling anxious and stressed and like worried about what he's doing. Like he's not making me feel good anymore, and I deserve more than that. And it doesn't matter how much I like him and how much I want this to work. Like I am worth more than what he's treating me like. And I left and I did it so unemotionally. Like we FaceTimed and I ended it. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just was like, this is what we did. This is what I found out, and we're done. You have one chance to tell me the truth about everything. You have nothing to lose because you've already lost me.
Yeah.
So you can tell me the truth or not. Doesn't matter because I'm done. And I was heartbroken. I didn't show it in that call, but I was heartbroken. But I was also so relieved after that. And now looking back, I think a big part of that relief was realizing that like I just found my self-worth and I will never be treated like this again.
Yeah, because my personal feelings in that situation, you already know. But for so long, I was like, how does this girl not see this? How does she not see how bad this is for her and how much better she is in all of this and how much more she deserves from all of this? And I feel like the day that you did that, obviously I was happy that you weren't continuing things with this man.
Yeah.
But I think more than that, I was so happy and proud to see you like that, because it was like something you could see the change. Dude, I feel like
it was like night and day. I was so, that might be the most proud I've ever been of myself.
And you've carried yourself the same way since that day, I feel like.
And you know what? Only good things have happened to me since then, really. I mean, obviously, my life isn't perfect every single day. But you know what I mean? Like, only good people. Like, I haven't had anyone treat me bad. I met
But I feel
Boy,
like
who's
you
been
don't
incredible.
have people treat you bad because you have the self-worth enough to tell people when they are, or when they make the first mistake, you're like, hey, like, no.
Yeah. Or I just am like, bye.
Yeah.
I don't even have to say anything. But I also think that when you have that self-worth, you do carry yourself different. Like, you could see the difference in me. And I think that people see that.
Yeah.
And they may not know what it is, but I think that the people who are not going to treat you well see that and don't even bother, because they're like, she's not going to put up with my crap.
You radiate that. Like, when you have that and you're fully, genuinely believing it, like, I just feel like you radiate with it.
Yeah.
Like,
and it attracts people who are in a similar spot, in a similar mindset.
Yeah. And I feel like the assholes are always going to, like, peek their head in, but they eventually realize, like, oh, this isn't going to work for me anymore.
Yeah. And I feel like it's so much easier to spot those types of people. Like, even, like, I'll see someone out and I don't know anything about them, but I'll see them do little things here and there that I'm like, that may be the hottest man I've ever seen in my life. I am 0% interested in him. Like, I can tell I don't like the way he moves. Like, he moves like a douchebag. Like, he's gonna...
Yeah, I think it's how people carry themselves. And you can just tell.
Yeah, you can, definitely. And I think as far as finding your self-worth, if you don't already, like, have that, I think a good way is to, like, realize a situation that you're in isn't good for you and walk away from it and never look back. And it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I think
1000%.
once you do that once, especially, like, the bigger the thing is, bigger the situation is, the bigger your feelings are in the situation, when you walk away, you will feel the change.
Yeah.
Like, you will feel so empowered and so much better about yourself. And I feel like that, at least for me, was how I realized my self-worth, when I was able to walk away from a situation like that and I was fine.
Yeah.
I was sad for a day or two and then I was fine.
Yeah.
And, like, every once in a while I'll get sad still. Like, I'm human. But
healing isn't linear.
It was like one of those things where in the moment, the thought of leaving him, I was like crushed. And I'm like, I'm never going to meet anyone like this again. And then after I left, I was like, but I have to leave because I can't feel like this anymore. Like, I was so stressed out. I was in the worst place I've ever been mentally, I think. It was bad. And when I left and then I was okay, I was like, oh, I got this.
Yeah,
like I
like
can
you're
get
good.
through anything. Like I can get through anything, and I'm never going to be treated. No one will treat me like this again.
Yeah,
nobody will treat me like that again.
That goes with like all kinds of relationships too, like not just like romantic relationships, but that could go for friends who aren't really your friend, or even family members. Like, yeah, family's blood, but if they're not treating you right, they're not treating you right.
Yeah, there's no law saying you have to keep in touch with your family if they're not being good to you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like wrap it all into one. I feel like when you have the self-worth, I feel like, and the self-love, that's when you can like see like those people radiating.
Yes. And
like just this energy.
I feel like that's also when you will feel the most happy. Because your happiness truly does only depend on you. Like other people may contribute to that happiness, but when you really have the self-love and the self-worth, you will be so happy. My whole life, I remember thinking like, I've always been a very happy, positive person, but I always felt like something was missing. And when I started therapy, she asked me what my goals were. And one of my goals was I want to be happy, like to my core. And I was like, there's nothing that's making me sad right now, but I feel like I just feel like something's missing. And then once I kind of had that self-worth and like really started embracing that and acting on it and like seeing the difference it made in my life, in 2 months time, I graduated therapy because I completed all my goals, one of them being that I was happy to my core, and I genuinely felt so happy to my core, and I still do. And like, I just feel like it doesn't really matter what life throws at me. I'm going to be fine and I'm going to be happy. Like, I just know that I am. I don't know. I always had the self-love, but I found the self-worth, and it completely changed everything, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like we kind of started on how you kind of always had the self-love and like worked your way to the self-worth, and I feel like I was very much the opposite. Yeah, and I feel like it was very opposite of what was instilled in us growing up. And not saying that my parents didn't tell us to love ourselves, but I feel like there was never a moment in time that I thought less of myself.
Yeah.
Or like that I deserved less because of X, Y, and Z. There's never a thought in my mind growing up about that.
Yeah.
I always was like, this is my standard, and I always expect people to reach that standard that are in my life or like with anything. And I am pretty like type A too, if the listeners didn't already figure that out. But I feel like it's just something that I was like, I'm always worth this. Like, that's it. Like, period.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had a harder time with the self-love. And it's not because my parents didn't instill that in us, but I feel like out of the two, it was the worth that they instilled more. So I felt like I always just had such these high standards, but I wasn't always nice to myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a lot of like negative self-talk and thoughts that I have had and still have because I'm still learning that part of it.
I just feel like Kristen and I had a heart-to-heart last night where we both cried. And I think it surprises me so much. Like, Kristen said something that literally made me so upset. It was negative self-talk. And it made me so upset because I see these standards that you have. And
I'm going to start crying again, but I'm listening.
You will not let people treat you less in a certain way. But you treat yourself less than that way. And you don't see it really that much, but like you'll say certain things that I'm like, and it blew my mind, like what you said. And I was so upset. I'm going to start crying too. I was so upset that you felt that way about yourself that I like wanted to just shake you and be like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean? It just like, I don't know. It's hard to like see that because I know you have these standards and everyone knows you have these standards and you do hold people to those standards, but you don't hold yourself to that standard. And it's like, you have this standard because you deserve these things, and you do deserve these things.
Mm-hmm.
And you like, you should have all these good things happening to you, but you don't always feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know that it's true, and you make other people stick to that standard,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have this negative self-talk, and you get down on yourself and get mean to yourself, kind of. And it's just like, as someone from the outside who like sees how much you deserve, to hear you talk about yourself like that
Mm-hmm.
blows my mind, because I've never been like that. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been like a positive self-talker. And so when I see that, I'm like, no, bitch, we're not saying those things. We don't feel that way about ourselves. No way. And so I just wish I could like give that to you, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it's, what's so crazy is, full transparency, I'm also in therapy too. I think I've mentioned it prior, but while I'm about to say these things, I feel like that's important to know. I feel like I know that. Like, I know that I'm worth more. I know that I'm worth like loving myself more, and worth more than that.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because I know that.
Yeah, I know you do.
I know
that's why
that.
It shocked me when you said that.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm like, you know that you deserve more.
Yeah.
But you have these like self-doubts, and make you question if you really, like, you know that you do, but deep down you're like, but do I?
Yeah. And it's like, you're right. Like, I do have all these high standards, but then I fall short on living up to my own standards.
Yeah.
And it's like, outside, yes, I have all of these things, and I want all of these things, and not that my expectations are like crazy high, you guys. I'm just saying,
not like a psycho.
Yeah, we had this conversation on an earlier podcast. But I just feel like I will never let anyone treat me bad, but I treat myself bad.
Yeah. And you do a lot of self-love things. It's not like you're constantly like, I suck, I hate myself. Like, it's not like that at all, but it's deeper than that.
Yeah. I think you've seen me on my worst days of being in that kind of like downward spiral, and which is kind of where like the topic is coming up from anyways. And I think on my worst days, Kelsey has been so mad at me in a good way. Yeah. Of like, why the hell do you feel these things? And I feel like on my good days, I don't feel those things at all. Yeah. Anyways, I have a much harder time with that half of this topic than the other half.
So how do you think you can like build that self-love? Like, how do you change that?
I think it's a lot of like introspective work. And I think that's where I've gotten better at, whether it's something like more spiritual, like doing a sound bath or a meditation and stuff like that. At least I kind of see those as more of a spiritual experience, like for myself personally. And I feel like going to those has been really helpful, especially when I am not in like a good state of mind. Yeah. I feel like booking those when I'm not feeling well mentally helps me so much. And I also think it's with like actually being vulnerable and talking about your feelings. And like therapy has been a million times so helpful for me. Yeah, because me too. I have a much harder time opening up to close friends and family than I do this random stranger. And by random stranger, I mean my therapist.
Yeah, I mean, they're licensed to do that. And I think they're not going to judge you, and they like they don't know you. So what do you have to lose?
Like, they don't have any bias, and I don't know, I feel like therapy is always such like a, what's the word for it?
Almost like taboo. It's like,
yes, that's what I was looking for.
It's like, oh, you go to therapy, like what's wrong with you?
And I think it's becoming like more normalized. I think so for sure, especially with our generation.
I agree. I know now several guys who have gone to therapy. I've like talked to those guys are the best guys that I know.
Yeah, I'll talk to guys, and I will like drop that, like if they're like, what are you doing this weekend, or like, what do you have going on today? And like, if I have therapy that day, I'm like, oh, like I have therapy and this. Like, I never try and hide it. And almost every single time, the guy that I'm talking to is like, oh, like, how is that? And like starts asking me like genuine questions about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
It's like very helpful for me. Like, I think everyone should do it. I know it's not for everyone, but like I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah.
And like there have been guys that have told me like, hey, I'm like checking that out. Like I'm making an appointment. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like that's so cool.
I love that they say they're checking it out and they actually are. That's crazy.
That's a crazy concept.
Crazy.
Not sure if all of them did, but
I also think that everyone should go to therapy, and I've always thought that, even though I wasn't going, I've always thought that everybody should. And then when I finally did go, I was in a pretty good place when I started it. I feel like by that point I had ended things with a liar, and I was already on the up and up. But it did make a big difference, like because it's not just you don't have to have anything going on. Like it helped me with my ADHD. She gave me. I didn't practice much, but she gave me like different exercises and things to do, or like, I guess this is ADHD too, but like focusing. She's taught me different like focusing techniques and like any situation could come up at any point that therapists are really good at giving you advice on how to navigate it, or like exercises and tools that you can use in your everyday life for anything.
Like, I don't know. I think therapy is a great tool. It's not the answer, I feel like. For like learning how to love yourself, but I think it's definitely a great tool in the right direction. And I think like, I don't know, for me, like going into therapy, if I think that I have nothing to talk about that day, like nothing's coming up like to mind, those usually are the days that we dive in the deepest. Yeah. And that like I uncover something that I haven't thought about in years, or like something like that, which sounds insane. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's a great tool. And I think that's one that I've used off and on for quite a few years. And I am in the on cycle currently. And I think I'm just learning to enjoy it again. And it's really like hard, but I feel like it's taught me a lot. And I think that has been like the most helpful to me learning how to love myself more, because I'm learning more about myself and I'm learning how to cope with the things that I'm learning. Yeah. And cope is like a strong negative-ish word, but like that's exactly what I would call it. B, get down.
I feel like another good way, and it's gonna be different for everybody, obviously, but I think another good way to kind of establish that self-love is to like find something that you enjoy doing and do it a lot. For me, that was soccer growing up. I always was playing soccer, and that like built a lot of confidence in me because I was good at it and I loved it, and like I found my people and I found like my identity. I think like kind of knowing who you are and what you want and what your purpose is a huge key to having that confidence. If you feel lost, you're not going to feel confident. And for me, that was soccer. So when soccer ended, I had to find a new like purpose and journey, and like it all worked out. Like it's all good now, but finding something that you enjoy doing it often. And I know that this is a thing that people do, and it's on TikTok, and I've seen videos, and it's like a real thing, and it sounds so silly, and I've never done it consistently, but waking up in the morning and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I love you. Like telling yourself that you love you, and positive affirmations, saying them out loud. When you say them enough, eventually your brain starts to believe it.
My therapist makes me repeat manifestations every so often.
Yeah. Because even
affirmations, not manifestations.
Because even if you don't feel that way when you're saying it, it's like a psychological thing that if you say it enough, your brain believes it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have all this confidence.
Yeah. You know what is also a really, really important like tip to trying to find yourself and love yourself is spending time alone. Yeah. Like I feel like spending time alone and really being with your thoughts and getting to know your thoughts and getting to know yourself is so crucial. And I think as someone who personally spends like quite a bit of time alone, or likes to spend quite a bit of time alone, even though Kelsey and I are always doing things together. Always. It's like I'm basically alone.
We've just combined into one person. When we're together, we're alone.
Yeah. But I think it's so crucial to spend time with yourself. And if it makes you uncomfortable to like take yourself out on a date and like go eat lunch or dinner or even breakfast or something somewhere, like, then don't do that.
Yeah.
I've done it and I was so uncomfortable the whole time. But I feel like at the same time, I'm like, I did it once and I learned so much about myself.
Yeah.
Like, I would go to movies by myself. I spent, like, growing up, when I could, like, drive, I would spend, like, days, like, hours by myself in, like, a Barnes and Noble, like, reading.
Yeah.
And I just really, really like my own company, I feel like, a lot of the time. And obviously, I'm going to have those moments. Loneliness, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But I feel like a step for me to get to a better point in how much I love myself was getting to know myself when I'm alone. Because I have no one to bounce my thoughts out, like, back to.
Yeah.
There's no one giving me their opinion on how they feel to even remotely, like, try and persuade me into feeling a certain way without me even realizing that they're persuading that.
Yeah. So you basically are forced to think everything out and through on your own with your own opinions and your own mind, like, and no other outside
and how do
forces.
you truly feel about, like, X, Y, and Z? And I don't
why
know.
You feel that way.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is important is, like, when you do feel angry or sad or whatever emotions are coming up negative about yourself, ask yourself why you feel that way. Okay, why do I think that I look so bad today? What is it about me that I think looks bad? Why do I feel like, why do I hate myself so much today? Why am I so embarrassed about this situation? Like, why do I feel that way?
It's like a reverse image search.
Yeah, it is. Because once you start digging, you're like, I don't actually have a reason to feel that way.
Yeah.
And I'm just totally in my head. So sometimes that kind of helps unpack it and, like, kind of untangle the line of, like, what the feeling that's happening in the first place.
So I don't know. I feel like those are just, like, a few things that people can do to, like, help that portion, or what I've done to help myself try and get better at it and better at loving myself. And I feel like for you, like, everyone realizes their self-worth differently and at different times and are taught differently on the subject, whatever. And I feel like for you, you had, like, one incident that, like, was, like, the light switch for you. And I feel like sometimes, and obviously it's not something that, like, you carry with you every day. I feel like sometimes it's less. Sometimes you put up with more that you know you shouldn't, blah, 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 whatever. Like, for everyone, not you specifically.
Yeah.
But I think that it's something that once you have it, and you're never going to go back on it.
Yeah, because once you feel how good it feels to have that self-worth and self-love, you're not going back. There's no way.
You are not going to accept what you did prior to that.
Yeah.
Because those things no longer serve you at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy that it can happen at any point. Like, the liar is not, this is not someone I dated for years and years and built a whole life around. Like, we dated for a couple months, not even, there was no label.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, had one of the biggest impacts on me because it was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I know that other people feel this way because I've seen it on TikTok and it had thousands of likes, but, like, situationships hit you so much harder than actual relationships.
Yes,
like, girls
a lot of times they do.
Fucked up for so much longer over this guy that was never actually their boyfriend.
It's funny because I've been both. Like, when soccer player broke up with me, it took me 2 years to get over that. Like, I was destroyed. That changed me a lot too. But then it felt like every situationship after that was, like, just as hard. And I'm like, these aren't even people that I'm dating.
Yeah.
And with the liar,
it's people that, like, you haven't even known for, like, a year.
Yeah.
Or 6 months. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it just goes to show that time doesn't matter. Like, you can meet someone who in 3 months means more to you to someone that you've known for 10 years does. Like, because they treat you better, whatever it may be. And in this case, he sucked. Like, he sucked.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing that's ever happened to me because for whatever reason, this insignificant one person in my life, of my 28 years of life, that was in it for 6 months, whatever it was, like, had such a big impact on me that it made me find my self-worth.
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel like
it's crazy.
I mean, I almost wouldn't even say that he's insignificant because I feel like he was significant in the way that you learn that about yourself.
Yeah.
Like him in your life and in that situation, that is significant because that is like the time and place that you like found your self-worth.
Yeah. He wasn't a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the love of my life. It wasn't anything like that. Did I love him? Yeah, I think I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the impact that he had on me. Like, it's what was changed within me on my own because of the situation that I was in that like really made it so significant. And I don't know. I could talk about this for days because I feel like a completely different person, and I feel like everyone could see it.
Yeah. I think so. I could.
And then it's crazy how after that the next guy that I like date does things for me that nobody has ever done for me. And like who knows if that will work out or not, but that is the standard now.
Yeah,
I will
exactly.
I will not date anyone who doesn't treat me the way that neighbor boy treats me.
Yeah,
like, I won't.
Even like friends, like I'm not going to be friends with you even if you're going to treat me any less than what I deserve from a friend.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like, and again, like family members, it extends to everyone in your circle.
Yeah.
Because it's like you bring back what you put out. So when you're putting out this energy of knowing your worth and loving yourself and all of these things mixed together, I feel like you get that in return.
Yeah. I
agree.
agree.
The universe literally rewards you for it. Like the universe is like, yes, finally, like you did it. Like you see it. Like here are all these things. Like one after the other.
We got our
like,
dream apartment.
Yeah.
And like so many things have started working out.
Yeah. And of course, like things are not always good. Like they're not always great.
Right.
But I feel like
they're easier to handle.
They're easier to handle. You are getting a better return on what you're putting out in life.
And things that go wrong don't feel as significant as they did before.
100%.
I remember there were times where I would be so stressed out about things going a certain way, and when they didn't go that way, it was like the biggest disappointment ever.
Yeah.
And now when things don't go my way, I'm like, okay, it's all right. We'll figure out a solution. Like it's no big deal. It didn't go the way that I thought it would or that I wanted it to, but what I've learned is that everything ends up going better than you could have imagined.
Yeah.
Like the worst situation that you've ever been in, the worst anyone's ever done you, whatever it may be, eventually is going to somehow be a really good thing for you. And you're going to be like, thank God it went that way.
Yeah.
Or where would I be now? It's the butterfly effect. Like everything happens for a reason, truly. And some things don't always make sense. And some things you may never figure out why they happen. And it's never going to feel fair. But like, for the most part, you're going to realize that you're glad things worked out the way that they did.
Yeah. I feel like I just care less.
Yeah.
About a lot of things.
Yeah, me too.
Where it's like, that doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't actually affect me. Like, why would I get worked up over that?
Yeah, exactly.
But
life is easier.
Yeah.
Find your self-love. Find your self-worth. Another thing that I think is really important is exercise.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be going to the gym. It doesn't have to be going on a run. It could be climbing the monkey bars at the playground. It could be
literally just going
on
for
a
walk.
bike ride, going on a walk, kayaking, doing a Zumba class.
I think just getting outside.
Getting outside
out of
and
your house, your apartment, and getting yourself active in whichever way is so helpful for your mental health and so helpful in you finding yourself as well. Because I feel like it's in those times that you're like testing the limit of your body and you're trying to make it stronger, or you're just trying to like take a walk down the street and like get your heart rate up a little bit. Like in those moments, I feel like is when you learn so much about your body, which in turn like affects how you feel about yourself.
Yes. And the more you do that, the healthier your body's going to be. And the healthier your body is, the healthier your mind is.
Yeah.
Like it is a direct correlation. So you can love yourself and have self-worth and self-love without being a fitness model.
Oh my God.
But the more active you are, the more healthy you are, the better you're going to feel physically, which in return will make you feel better mentally. So I think that's another like key ingredient in like finding kind of the full spectrum of self-love, worth and just happiness.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's like where we should end it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really good end to this conversation. So you heard it here first, you guys.
So that's it.
All right. Well, we post new episodes every Friday at some point during the day. We're trying to get better at it, but I feel like every week we have a new technical difficulty.
There's like something new every time.
Every time. We're getting better though. And yeah, so keep an eye out. Follow us on YouTube, Kouch Chronicles, Instagram, Kouch_Chronicles, TikTok, Kouch.Chronicles.
Just search Kouch Chronicles and you'll find it at some point.
Spotify.
Next week, we're going to do some like hot seat questions. So we're just going to ask each other like quick round questions. I am going to do an Instagram like poll or question.
Yeah.
So if anybody listening, any of our friends or anyone who's listening wants, I'll put that up right away. And then, or just DM us, whatever works. Just send us any questions you want us to ask each other. We're going to look some up too online and we're going to do that for a little bit. And then it's
going to get wild.
It's probably going to lead to a lot of side conversations.
Yeah, of course.
We'll get into that. And then we'll kind of go from there. So we will see you next week in San Diego. Yay! And we love you all so much. Thank you all for watching. And
bye.
Okay, bye.